Welcome back today. In this video, we're diving into the fascinating world of British coin collecting, focusing on the top 5 most valuable United Kingdom 1-penny coins. The humble penny, often overlooked in our daily lives, has a long and rich history. Some of these coins, depending on their year, condition, and mint marks, can be worth far more than their face value. Collectors around the world are always on the lookout for rare examples, and certain pennies have achieved incredible prices at auctions. Let's explore the top 5 most valuable 1-penny coins that every collector should know about. Let's get started. First up, the United Kingdom 1-penny from 1945 in circulated fine condition. While pennies may seem ordinary to most, coins from this era carry with them rich historical significance, intricate designs, and in some cases, surprising collector interest. In this video, we'll take a deep look into its history, unique features, rarity, collector demand, and its current market value in US dollars. We'll also share some practical tips for collectors who want to add this coin to their collection or perhaps sell it for the right price. The British penny has a long and storied past, and the 1945 1-penny falls in the later years of King George VI's reign. George VI became king in 1936, following the abdication of his brother Edward VIII, and his portrait adorned British coinage until his passing in 1952. The 1945 penny was struck during the aftermath of World War II, a time when Britain was recovering economically, socially, and politically. Coins produced during this period served not only as everyday currency but also as enduring symbols of stability during uncertain times. Millions of pennies were minted in the mid-1940s, but many were heavily used in circulation, which is why most surviving examples today show signs of wear. The 1945 1-penny features the left-facing portrait of King George VI on the obverse, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget. His portrait is finely detailed, with a Latin inscription around it reading Georgiev 6D GBROMN Rex F laughing smiley NDIMP, which translates to George VI, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. On the reverse side, the design showcases Britannia seated facing right, wearing a helmet and holding a trident, with a shield resting by her side. This design is an iconic symbol of British strength and maritime tradition, one that had been a fixture on pennies since the 19th century. The coin is made of bronze, has a diameter of 30.81 millimeters, and weighs around 9.4 grams. Its substantial size compared to modern pennies makes it a striking piece in hand. Now, you might be wondering how rare is the 1945 1-penny. In truth, it is not among the scarcest British pennies, since millions were struck for circulation. However, most examples available today are in heavily circulated or damaged condition. Finding one in mint state or uncirculated condition is far more difficult, and these command higher prices at auction. In circulated fine condition, such as the one we're discussing, the coin still holds value as part of a complete George VI penny collection. Collectors often seek this year to fill gaps in their sets, and even worn examples have a place in the market because of their historic background and large bronze design, which appeals to both beginners and seasoned collectors. So, what is a 1945 penny worth today in the auction market? In circulated fine condition, its value is generally modest, often ranging between $431,000. These prices reflect its availability, but also its appeal as a mid-20th century collectible. If the coin is in better condition, say very fine or extremely fine, the price can rise to around $316,000. Uncirculated examples are significantly more desirable, and those can sometimes sell for $114,000 or more, depending on the strike and overall preservation. While not a fortune, the coin does hold more than just face value. It represents a tangible piece of British history. If you are interested in collecting the 1945 penny or similar coins, here are some useful tips. First, always examine the condition carefully, looking for sharp details, minimal scratches, and even toning. Second, consider storage. Bronze coins are prone to tarnishing and corrosion, so keeping them in a dry, temperature-controlled environment will help preserve their quality. Third, research the market before buying or selling. Sometimes dealers and auctions offer better prices than quick online sales. Finally, remember that coins like the 1945 penny are best appreciated as part of a collection that spans multiple years, giving you a broader view of design changes, minting history, and historical context. The 1945 one penny may not be the rarest coin in the United Kingdom's history, but it holds undeniable charm and value for collectors. Its design reflects the strength of Britain during the mid-20th century, its historical context ties directly to the closing chapter of World War II, and its bronze composition gives it a classic presence that modern coinage lacks. In circulated fine condition, its auction value is modest, but for many collectors, its true worth lies in the story it tells and the place it holds within a broader collection. Whether you're starting your journey in coin collecting or adding depth to an existing collection, the 1945 penny is a timeless and meaningful addition. Next up, the United Kingdom one penny from the year 1964, specifically in fine circulated condition. At first glance, this coin may not appear extremely rare, but it carries a lot of historical significance and collector interest. In this video, we'll explore its background, unique design features, its rarity and demand even in damaged states, and most importantly, its current auction market value in US dollars. By the end, you'll have a clearer idea of whether this coin is worth holding onto or simply passing along. The 1964 one penny coin belongs to the pre-decimal era of British currency. Before decimalisation in 1971, the United Kingdom used a system where £1 equaled 240 pennies. This 1964 penny was one of the final issues of the large bronze pennies featuring Queen Elizabeth II's portrait, and millions of them were struck for circulation. They were used in everyday transactions, from buying a newspaper to small market purchases. The coin was minted at a time when the UK was experiencing post-war growth and modernisation, making it a small yet important part of daily life. Although not immediately rare, its survival in higher grades today contributes to its collectible value. The obverse side of the 1964 one penny features the first definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick. This youthful effigy, without a crown, is particularly admired by collectors because it reflects a fresh start for Britain's new monarch in the 1950s and 1960s. The reverse shows the iconic seated figure of Britannia holding a trident and shield, a design that had been used on British pennies since the 19th century. The coin is made from bronze, with a diameter of 30.8 mm and a weight of around 9.4 grams, making it noticeably larger and heavier than today's decimal pennies. Its large size and bold imagery make it a favourite for those who enjoy the artistry of older British coinage. The 1964 penny is not an exceptionally rare coin in general, as over 140 million were minted. However, most were heavily used in circulation, leading to worn, scratched, and damaged examples. In fine condition, which means it shows moderate wear but still has clear details, it retains more collector value compared to poor or heavily corroded specimens. Collectors often prefer uncirculated or near-mint examples, but even damaged or corroded 1964 pennies can attract beginner collectors, young numismatists, or hobbyists interested in inexpensive yet historical coins. Because this was among the last series of large pennies before decimalisation, even lower-grade examples maintain a steady demand as part of a complete Elizabeth II penny collection. When it comes to market value, a 1964 one penny in fine circulated condition usually sells between $326,000. The price may vary depending on the coin's level of detail, surface preservation, and the seller's platform, whether it's an online auction site, a coin dealer, or a private collector. Damaged examples might fetch only a few cents, while coins in very fine to uncirculated condition can sell for $221,000 or more, especially if they appear with strong luster and minimal blemishes. In bulk lots, these coins are often sold for lower per piece values, but individually listed coins in good condition can reach higher auction prices due to nostalgia and collector interest. If you're looking to collect the 1964 penny, condition is key. Always examine the sharpness of Britannia's details and the clarity of Queen Elizabeth's portrait. Avoid coins with heavy corrosion, deep scratches, or cleaning marks, as these significantly reduce value. Consider buying coins in protective holders to prevent further wear. If you're investing long-term, aim for uncirculated or proof examples, as those will likely appreciate more over time. For casual collectors, even fine or very fine circulated coins are affordable entry points into British numismatics. When selling, list your coin with clear photographs and accurate descriptions, as online buyers often pay more when they can clearly see the quality of the coin. In conclusion, the United Kingdom one penny from 1964 may not be the rarest coin in British history, but it carries strong historical and collectible appeal. Its large bronze design, iconic Britannia reverse, and connection to Queen Elizabeth II's early reign make it a desirable piece for coin enthusiasts. While its market value in fine condition is modest, ranging from a few cents to around $1 or $2, it remains an important coin for completing collections and preserving a piece of Britain's pre-decimal monetary heritage. Whether you're a beginner just starting your journey or an experienced collector seeking to fill gaps in your collection, the 1964 one penny is definitely a coin worth appreciating. Next up, the 1967 one penny. While this coin may not be considered rare in mint state, many people still find them in poor or bad condition, especially since they were used heavily in circulation. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the 1967 one penny coin, exploring its history, unique features, collector demand in damaged condition, and of course, its current market value in dollars. Whether you're just starting your coin collecting journey or you're a seasoned collector, this is a coin worth knowing about. The 1967 one penny holds an interesting place in British coinage history. This coin was part of the pre-decimal system, before the United Kingdom transitioned to decimal currency in 1971. The one penny coin at that time was equal to 1/240th of a pound, a system that might sound unusual today but was standard across Britain for centuries. 1967 was particularly notable because the Royal Mint produced this coin in extremely high numbers. In fact, over 655 million pieces were struck, making it one of the most common dates of the penny series. They were intended for everyday circulation and were still being minted in large numbers to meet demand, even though decimalization was just a few years away. For this reason, the 1967 penny is one of the most frequently found pre-decimal coins in the UK and even overseas. Despite being mass-produced, the 1967 penny carries features that make it interesting to collectors. On the obverse, you'll find the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick, which was first introduced in 1953. This youthful portrait of the Queen, without a crown but wearing a laurel wreath, is admired for its classical style. The reverse design features the iconic figure of Britannia, seated with a shield and trident, a design that had been used on British pennies for over a century. The word one penny is inscribed, along with the date 1967 at the bottom. The coin itself is made of bronze and measures 30.81 millimeters in diameter, making it one of the largest circulating coins of its era. Now, let's address the real question: how rare is the 1967 penny? In truth, the coin is not rare at all. Because of the massive mintage, it is one of the easiest pre-decimal coins to find, even today. Millions remain in circulation or in collections, and countless examples exist in both circulated and uncirculated condition. However, many 1967 pennies found today are in bad condition, scratched, corroded, discolored, or heavily worn. Unfortunately, in numismatics, condition plays a huge role in value. A badly damaged penny from 1967 usually holds no premium above its face value, and collectors tend to avoid poor-grade coins unless they are sentimental or part of a bulk lot. That being said, some people still enjoy keeping these coins as historical relics, and beginners often start their collections with these affordable pieces. Though, how much is a 1967 penny worth today if it's in bad condition? The answer is fairly modest. In most cases, a heavily circulated or damaged 1967 penny sells for between $534,000, often just for its bronze content or as a novelty coin. Dealers and auction houses rarely list such coins individually because they are too common. If the coin is in better condition, such as fine or extremely fine grade, the value can rise slightly, usually up to $416,000. And in brilliant uncirculated or proof-like condition, they can sometimes fetch $114,000 at auction. But for a damaged example, the value remains very low, and it is usually only sold in bulk lots, where dozens of coins might be grouped together for a small price. If you're interested in collecting pre-decimal pennies, here are a few tips to keep in mind. First, always pay attention to condition. While the 1967 penny is common, finding one in pristine condition is more challenging and therefore more rewarding. Second, don't be discouraged if you come across bad condition examples. They can still serve as affordable starting points for new collectors or as educational pieces for children learning about history. Third, consider looking into earlier years of the penny series. Coins from the Victorian or Edwardian era, for example, can carry much higher value, especially if they're in good condition or have low mintages. Finally, Remember that collecting is not always about monetary gain, it's also about appreciating the history and stories these coins represent. To sum up, the United Kingdom 1 penny from 1967 is one of the most common coins of the pre-decimal era. While it may not be rare, and while bad condition examples hold very little monetary value, usually just a few cents, it remains an important coin for beginners and history enthusiasts alike. Its design, history, and connection to Queen Elizabeth II's early reign ensure it still has a place in many collections around the world. So, if you have a 1967 penny in poor condition, don't expect it to make you rich. But do treasure it for its historical significance. It's a small bronze piece of British heritage that has survived decades of circulation. Next up, the United Kingdom 1 penny coin from the year 1930. While many coins from this era are relatively common, the condition, demand, and historical context play a huge role in determining their worth. Today, we'll focus on a 1931 penny in dirty condition and explore its rarity, collector interest, and auction market value in dollars. Whether you're new to coin collecting or an experienced numismatist, this coin has a story worth telling. The 1931 penny belongs to the reign of King George V, who ruled from 1910 until his death in 1936. His portrait is featured on the obverse of the coin, designed by Sir Bertram McKennell. On the reverse, we see the iconic seated figure of Britannia holding a trident and shield, a design that had been used on British pennies for decades. The 1 penny coin was made of bronze and had a significant place in everyday commerce during the early 20th century. Millions were struck each year, but as time passed, many were lost, damaged, or heavily circulated. The 1930 penny is typical of its series in size and design, but what makes it interesting is its placement in the final decade of King George V's coinage. Collectors particularly value coins from this period because they represent a transitional era before the reign of Edward VIII and later George VI. A standard 1930 penny weighs around 9.4 grams, with a diameter of 30.8 millimeters, struck in bronze. In dirty or heavily circulated condition, the details of Britannia and the King's portrait are often worn or obscured, making pristine examples much more desirable. However, even in poor condition, the date itself carries historical significance. When it comes to rarity, the 1930 penny is not the rarest coin of the George V era, but it does hold collector appeal due to its age. Over 29 million were minted that year, so surviving examples are not scarce in general. However, demand remains steady among collectors who wish to complete date runs of British pennies. In dirty or damaged condition, the coin loses much of its collector premium. Still, some hobbyists enjoy acquiring lower-grade examples for affordable prices, especially beginners who want to start a collection without spending too much. So while pristine coins may bring higher bids, even a dirty 1930 penny has its place in the collecting community. So, what is a 1930 UK 1 penny worth in today's market? In dirty or heavily circulated condition, the value is quite modest. Most often, these coins sell between $325,000 at online auctions or coin shops. If the coin is extremely worn or corroded, it may only bring face value equivalent as a collectible curiosity. On the other hand, if the coin were in fine, very fine, or uncirculated condition, the value could climb 2 or more depending on the grade. But for a dirty condition penny, collectors should not expect high prices. It is valued more for its history than rarity. For collectors interested in the 1930 penny, there are a few important tips to keep in mind. First, condition is everything. If you're looking to build long-term value in your collection, aim for better preserved examples whenever possible. Second, avoid harsh cleaning, as cleaning often reduces a coin's value, even if it looks shiny afterward. Third, if you're starting out, picking up a dirty or heavily circulated 1930 penny can be a budget-friendly way to add history to your collection before upgrading later. Finally, always compare market prices and look out for reputable dealers or trusted auction sites when buying or selling. In conclusion, the 1930 United Kingdom 1 penny is a charming piece of numismatic history from the reign of King George V. While it isn't an especially rare coin, it still holds value for collectors, especially as part of a date run or historical display. In dirty condition, its market value is modest, usually between $1 and $3, but its true worth lies in the story it tells about Britain's coinage and everyday life nearly a century ago. If you're passionate about coin collecting, even these humble pennies can become treasures in your collection. Next up, the United Kingdom 1 penny from the year 1920. We'll be looking at this coin in worn condition, discussing its history, the unique features that set it apart, the demand among collectors, and of course, its current market value in US dollars. Even though it may look ordinary or heavily used, this coin carries a fascinating story that connects directly to the changes in British currency during the early 20th century. So, let's get started. The year 1920 was a transitional time for British coinage. Prior to this year, pennies were struck in bronze with a higher copper content. However, starting in 1920, the Royal Mint changed the metal composition of coins from the silver series down to the penny, reducing the silver content in higher denominations and continuing with bronze for lower ones, including the penny. This shift marked the growing economic challenges after World War I, as the United Kingdom needed to reduce the cost of producing coins. The 1920 penny itself features the portrait of King George V, who reigned from 1910 to 1936, a monarch often referred to as the Soldier King due to his leadership during the Great War. These coins were struck in large numbers, but their survival in collectible condition is another story entirely. The 1920 penny carries some distinctive details that attract collectors. On the obverse, it features the bare-headed portrait of King George V, facing left, designed by Sir Bertram Mackennal. Surrounding his portrait is the Latin inscription Georgievs V Dei Gra, Brit, OMN, Rex Fid, Def, Ind, Imp, which translates to George V, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. On the reverse side, the iconic seated Britannia is shown holding a trident and shield, a long-standing symbol of Britain's naval power and unity. The date, 1920, is clearly displayed at the bottom. Although the design remained largely consistent with earlier George V pennies, it is a classic representation of British artistry and coinage style in the early 20th century. Now, let's talk about rarity. The 1920 penny was struck in high numbers. Around 129 million pieces were minted, which means it isn't considered rare in the absolute sense. However, the key factor here is condition. Most of these coins were used heavily in circulation throughout the 1920s, 1930s, and even into the mid-20th century, leaving a huge number of surviving examples in worn or damaged states. Collectors tend to prioritize coins in higher grades, such as very fine or extremely fine, which makes heavily worn coins less desirable. That being said, there is still demand for worn 1920 pennies among beginner collectors or those who want a low-cost way to complete their George V penny set. For some, a coin's worn appearance adds to its charm, serving as a reminder of its long life in everyday transactions. When it comes to value, the condition makes all the difference. A 1920 penny in pristine mint condition can fetch significantly higher prices, sometimes $431,000 or more depending on the grade. But for worn examples, the value is much lower. In today's auction and online marketplaces, a heavily circulated 1920 penny typically sells for around $121,000. If the coin is extremely worn, with most details faded, it may sell for less than $1, often being purchased in bulk lots by collectors. However, certain varieties or particularly well-struck coins, even in lower condition, can sometimes surprise at auction. Still, as a general rule, a worn 1920 penny is considered a common and affordable coin. If you're thinking about adding a 1920 penny to your collection, here are a few useful tips. First, always assess the condition carefully. Even slight improvements in detail can significantly raise the coin's value. Second, look out for minting varieties or errors, such as off-center strikes or die cracks, which can add a premium even in worn coins. Third, consider purchasing higher-grade examples if your budget allows, as they tend to hold their value much better in the long run. However, if you're just starting out or simply want to own a piece of British history, a worn 1920 penny is still a wonderful addition that won't break the bank. Finally, always source your coins from reputable sellers, whether online auctions, coin shops, or coin fairs, to avoid counterfeits or misrepresented grades. And in conclusion, the United Kingdom 1 penny from 1920 may not be among the rarest or most valuable coins, especially in worn condition, but it remains a fascinating piece of British numismatic history. Its connection to King George V, its beautiful Britannia design, and its role in the everyday lives of people a century ago make it an appealing collectible. While its auction market value in worn condition hovers at just a few dollars, The true worth lies in its historical significance and its ability to connect collectors to a bygone era. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your journey, the 1920 penny is a coin that deserves a place in your collection. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more episodes on rare coins.